Happy New Year, it's James and I'm back in the shop again. Today is January the 2nd of 2018, a brand new year. And this brand new year is going to bring a bunch of changes for some of the things that I do in the shop. We're going to start a new project today that will enable us to do a bunch of new projects later on. And what I mean by that is I'm going to be obtaining a CNC machine in the very near future. And although my shop is fairly large, I have no place where I can safely put it. So today we're going to be building a table that has drawers on the sides and is big enough to accommodate a 1 square meter CNC machine. But today we're going to start turning 2x4s and plywood into a table that will hold this new CNC machine. So let's get going. So like I mentioned, the CNC machine is going to be basically 40 inches square. And so I'm going to build a table that is 42 inches wide and a little more than 4.5 feet long. I'm going to use 2x4s for the top. I'm going to glue together 2 2x4s for each leg and dimension those. And then we'll build, with plywood, we'll turn it into a cabinet that will have the vacuum cleaner, which will be for dust collection for the unit. And I'll be 2 drawers, one on each side, where I can store the computer that runs the CNC machine and all the attachments that are needed for the CNC machine. So we're going to begin by cutting some 2x4s in half, and then we're going to take off the rounded edge so that I can glue them together. So we'll be ripping on the table saw about 3/16 of an inch off on each side, and we'll glue them up and turn that into a table. So let's begin by cutting these 2x4s in half over at the chop saw. Like I said, I need 48 inches. Right there. And we'll turn on the dust collection and get started. Okay, so now we're going to take the rounded edge of the 2x4s off so that I have a square edge where I glue these together to form the tabletop. So we'll begin by doing one side, and we'll move the fence and do the other side. Dust collection first. Okay, now I've turned those 2x4s into a 3-inch by 1.5 inch board with square sides so that I can laminate them together, or glue them together into one solid top. The longest clamps I have are only 24 inches, so I can only fit 7 of them in, so I'm going to have to do this in 2 halves. And so I'm going to spend a little bit of time arranging these the way I want. Although I'd like the best face to be on the top to require less finishing, I also have to account for the grain. Now this circular grain, you can probably see it, I hope. This circular grain will eventually cause this board to cup, and if I had them all in the same direction, the whole board would cup into something unusable. So I'm going to try to alternate the grain, at the same time give me the best finish on the top. So we'll see how that works out. So we have 7 with alternating grain, so that should result in a fairly straight board. So we will get these glued together and then do the other side. pretty well clamped. Got a good amount of squeeze out. They're all tight together. I will be chipping off the excess glue with a paint scraper when it's dry, and then belt sanding the surfaces to get a nice finish. And while this is drying, we'll leave it to go 3 or 4 hours. While this is drying, we'll start making the legs. Okay, for the legs, we're going to use the same 2x4s. We only need them to be 33 inches long though, because there's going to be a caster at the bottom that's almost 3 inches tall. The height of my bench is right at 39 inches. So we're going to account for the top of the table, the caster, and we're going to make the legs 33 inches. But first I want to glue them together to get a square column that I will be dimensioning after. Now, if this was for anything other than a shop tool, I probably would plane 2 faces to get a perfect fit before I glue. But because this is a shop tool, I'm just going to go ahead and glue and clamp them and not worry too much about that. So I need to glue up 4 legs. I probably don't have enough clamps, but we'll get started. Okay, well, it's January the 5th and I'm back out in the shop again. I had to take a couple of days off. Before I quit the other day, I started belt sanding the top that I showed you, and I had enough clamps to glue up 2 of the legs I'm going to have. Well, today I glued up the other 2 legs, but that belt sander creates such a mess that I'm going to take advantage of this rare January 5th, almost 60-degree weather, and I'm going to do the belt sanding outside so I don't have the mess. So I'll get set up and we'll get started. Alright, so after a session of belt sanding, I have 2 of the legs sanded, rough sanded, and the 2 top boards. And I wanted to explain how I was going to try and join this together. So this is the top. Basically, it's all 2x4 construction. So the top is roughly, well, it's going to be 42 by 52. And the sides, where I'm going to have the drawers, I've called the drawer sides. And they're going to be 2 2x4s laying on their side, not standing up. Dadoed into the tops of the posts at 3.5 inches apart, so I can have 2x4s running the length of the top between, and that'll define the space for the drawer. So there'll be 2 2x4s joined there, and then another 2x4 at the bottom for the floor on its side. So there'll be dados cut for those. The long side, I'm going to attach just the 2x4s on their side, not, or standing up, not on their side like before, so these will be 3.5. So there'll be 2 different cuts in the top of the post as to how they're going to all attach. But this long board that goes between the 2 sides is going to define where the area is for the drawer. So I can put my drawer slides in, it'll add extra strength to the unit. Because I want it very solid and beefy, and then of course I'll be putting plywood doors on it and enclosing all the other sides. And then once it's built, we'll figure out, putting the vacuum cleaner in, how to get the hose out, where the surge protector is going to be, you know, and how the electric's getting in and out once we see the CNC table, and we'll get that all figured out later. But we're going to start cutting the dados in the tops of the posts. So to do that, I have to load up my stacked dado head, and we'll get started. So the next step is to cut the legs to receive the top and middle 2x4s that define the drawer. So this will be the end side, and what I want is for the two best sides that look the best to be on the outside. So that would mean that we're going to put a 1.5 inch by 1/2 inch deep cut into the top to receive the top piece. So I want the two best sides facing this way, and that would be these. And we'll square these up, get them all the same distance, and we'll throw a quick clamp on them. Okay, and we'll go down 1.5 inches on the top. I'm going to number these 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this was number 1. This was number 2. This was number 4. And this is number 3. Now, the bottom of this gets a 3.5 inch groove for the bottom 2x4. Alright, so we want our blade to be at 1/2 inch. Oh, you know what? Let's cut it 3/4. That'll give us a little more glue area and a little more place if we want to nail or screw. So now we should be ready to cut the ends of these. So here we go. I always forget that with a stacked dado head, sometimes the fence is not totally accurate, and in this case, that's right. So that's where we're going to go. And so you want the fence to be right at 5 inches. So that is right about there. Let's double check. We want 5 inches to this edge, not this edge. So it'll be like that. And just to double check, yes, that's right on my pencil mark. So we want another 1/2 inch cut, 1.5 inches wide there. So let's get started. We're going to set the fence to 5.5, which we did, and we're going to make this cut, and we're going to cut to here, and then we'll have a place to put a 2x4. So let's get going. 2x4 cut to 3 inches yet. So I'll just use the leg. Yes, that's going to work out just fine. So I'll do this to the other 3 and we'll get ready to start joining things together. Okay, well, I got the rails for the top cut, and we're going to glue those up now. I cut them so that the whole width would be exactly 36 inches. So what we're going to do is glue inside. I'm going to shoot a couple of 2.5-inch brads into it to help hold it. And then we'll glue and nail the top. Then we'll clamp the whole thing, and then we'll put the piece in at the bottom, which I have not cut yet because there might be a little bit of a variance of 1/8 of an inch or so. So let's get it square and get it glued and see where we end up. And we'll measure the bottom piece, make sure we're still square. And measures for the bottom rail. We're going to try and put this bottom rail on now, and it goes something like this, and that'll leave the bottom part of the cut for the side rails to go in. So this is going in like this, and there I want the best side out, which will be this side. I'll sand it. We'll just sand this off later. But they're a little tight, which is better than loose. So I'll just take a little bit off the edge and we'll get them to fit. Throw a clamp on it, like we did for the other side. So it's a couple hours later, and I thought I would try to dry fit these pieces together, both to make sure my system's going to work, plus to kind of show you exactly how this is going to go together. So there's one rail for the bottom, pretty close, and this one should fit in the top without knocking everything over, I hope. So that'll go like that and like that. Now I got another bottom. Goes over here. That fits pretty well. And then the other top piece goes here. Now I got some nails in the way, but I'll pound those in. So I've had projects in the past of laminated wood that through the seasons it moves, it cups or bows. So what I'm going to try and do is, this will be the drawer here, and the drawer glides will run here. So they'll roughly meet in the middle. It's an 18-inch deep drawer, 3¼ inches high. And I'll put plywood fronts on them, some decorative fronts. But what I want to do is beef up this top rail. So I will eventually put another 2x4 across the top that will be glued and screwed to give it really good strength, because I'm going to be putting like 2 I-beams of 2x4s across them, or just one across the middle. And I want to use that to be the grip that holds the boards down to keep them from cupping. We'll see how all this goes, but right now I'm pretty happy with the way this is working out. I'll put a plywood floor in, I'll put the vacuum cleaner for dust collection down there, I'll put a set of shelves in for other storage. There'll be cabinet doors on that side and drawers on each side. So it's looking good, and I'll be back. So today I'm going to glue and screw all these cross members in place, all the rails, and get ready to set it up for the drawer slides, and then start building the boxes for the drawers. I will probably fast forward through most of this, but you'll get the idea, and if anything develops along the way, we'll figure it out and talk about it. Now we're going to put casters on the bottom. And then we're going to flip it over and start putting in the supports that are going to be for the drawer glides. So we're nearly done with the framing. Alright, can now roll this thing around, which will be a good thing. So it's getting heavy. I like it. Okay, so we're back. I have glued and screwed a cross member across these 2 top rails at exactly the halfway point. And what I intend to do now is I have cut pieces to go on top as kind of like a stretcher. No persuasion is necessary. So that'll go there, and this will be glued and screwed into the rail. The cross piece will go in across here, and then the other piece like this goes on the other side. Now what that gives me is the equivalent of 2 I-beams, or half an I-beam anyway, once these are glued and screwed together and set up, I'll have plenty of surface to screw from the underside in to hold the top down and hopefully keep it from cupping and bowing. So this is liable not to move because there's two, cross structures strengthening each other. So we will get to work on that. I'll leave the camera running and probably fast forward, but we'll be back. With that completed, I think we have a super strong table to do our milling on. We also have a very nice place to hang the plywood sides on. It'll be very easy to put a plywood front on all of these pieces. So, I'm going to pause and get ready to put the drawer glides in, and we'll be back when we start building boxes. Just a quick update. I noticed that plywood bottom from my bottom shelf was really kind of flimsy, so I had a piece left over, so I added that cross piece in, glued and screwed, and boy, that made it much better. We'll be back. Okay, this is the beginning of the drawer installation. I bought these soft close glides that hold up to 100 pounds. They work really well when they're installed correctly. So I put a 1.1 piece of wood across where it's gonna be, clamped it in place perfectly straight, and now all I have to do is set the guide in place, line the front up here, and then screw those in, and then when I build the drawer boxes, just have to attach the glide in the proper place to keep it up off of the bottom here and down from the top. So we'll get to that. I just wanted to explain, so when you come back, this should all be done. Something else I wanted to talk about. These automatic drawer closers fail sometimes. I've had them fail on me when somebody tries to force a drawer closed. These little cylinders here that pull it closed bust out the back. And so I checked them, putting them in, and there were cracks already in the back of that. So I glued and screwed these blocks in, and I'll be doing it on the other side as well, but I put them in on both sides so the back end of the automatic pull close part doesn't blow out the back of the drawer glide. Just a little tip, something I've noticed from before. So I took that piece of plywood that you saw and I cut it into what's left of it lengthwise into 7-inch pieces. I have 3 of them. Now my drawer space is 3.5 inches high, the width of a 2x4. I want the drawer sides to be about 3 1/8, 3 3/16, so that I have room at the top and the bottom in case my straight lines are a little off. So I'm going to rip these in half, and then the width of my drawer is about 26 and the depth is 18 because that's the size of the glides, and I want the full extension. So we'll rip these down and then we will change the dado head because we're going to put a 1/2 inch rabbet on the bottom to hold the bottom of the drawer, and we're going to put rabbets in the sides to hold the front and the back. So we will get to that. I'll get set up and we'll get going. So I put in my stacked dado head and I put on this sacrificial fence so that my fence doesn't get marked up. And I made a few trial cuts using all the cutoffs that were waste, and I got it adjusted to where the side pieces, these would be the side piece, fits correctly with a rabbet into the back piece. Now I always do the side pieces because the sides are the critical widths when you have drawer glides, and so I don't want to confuse the issue by trying to do it this way. Anyway, these are the side pieces and this is the front and back. So once we get these cut, oh, by the way, my drawers were, let's see, the opening facing me was 26 1/4, and on the other side it was 26 3/16. So I had to cut the fronts and backs differently for each drawer, but they're only 1/16 of an inch off, which I don't think is bad for using 2x4s as framing lumber. So we're going to cut all the rabbets and then start gluing up. So you can see that now the backs of the drawers will fit the sides perfectly after they're glued. Now what I used to do, and what I've done many times, is I cut a 3/8 of an inch groove along the sides and the back, front and back of the drawers, and then slide the bottom drawer, the drawer bottom in. But these drawers are so short, I want the full depth that I can get. So I'm going to cut another rabbet along the entire bottom, and then cut the bottom to fit flush and glue the whole thing in to kind of stiffen up the whole thing. So we'll be putting going back to the saw and putting the groove or the rabbet in the bottom of all 8 pieces. Okay, so we're going to assemble the drawer pieces, and these are both marked 26 1/4 so I don't mismatch them. So we got a back and a front and 2 sides that have all been cut, and will go together kind of like that. So we'll be putting glue in here and shooting small brads into the side. And my little gun, I did some test nailing, and I have to, so that I don't split or goof this up, I had to dial the air down to 75 pounds. Otherwise it would have just really gone right through this little piece. So let's get this glued up. I've got 25 1/4 and I'm sorry, 25 3/4 and 25 3/4, and I've got 17 15/16 and 17 15/16. So I'm going to go rip out the bottom on the table saw, put it in. and then let everything dry. And then I'm going to take the bottoms back out and paint the bottoms brown, maybe even paint the insides brown, I'm not sure yet. Paint the bottoms brown, paint my shelf for the table brown, and then by then everything will be dry, and we can start putting the drawer glides on and make drawers, or install drawers. So stay tuned. Okay, the drawer bottoms have 2 coats of paint on them and they're dry. So we're going to put just a little bit of glue. Okay, so it's time to put the drawer glides on. And what we're going to do, if that's the front, we're going to attach this drawer glide to the side of the drawer. I've already determined that it's 1 7/8 from the bottom of the drawer to the center of this glide. So I'm going to draw a line. Actually, I'm going to move it and draw a line. It's easier on the floor. For the center line of the drawer glide, just by sliding my T-square along the bottom of the drawer. And that gives me a nice line. And so now, since that's the front, we'll put the front end down, and what we'll do is position this on that line, and then we'll clamp it in place so that we can, right there, so that we can easily drill. And I do pre-drill these holes because getting that little screw to start is kind of a pain. So you don't have to go very far. And I'm going to do just 2 of the holes. And I did the holes that give you an up and down adjustment. And once I check to make sure that this works, then I'll put in a few more screws. So we will drive these screws in. Little 3/8 screws, and make sure your torque setting on your drill is pretty low. And then we'll do it on the other side, and then we'll go and see how we did. So after I do the other side, I'll show you how it fits. Okay, well here's the drawer with the drawer glides in. We'll see how it works, see if it fits. And snap. So it should have a soft close when you get to a certain point, and oh, there it is. Just got to break in a little bit. Okay. Oh, you also might notice that last night, overnight, I clamped the 2 sections of the top together. I put a straight edge on it and I cut this straight, and today I'll be putting the end pieces on and clamp them. I got a little bit of bowing going on, as you can see, so what I think I might do is trim the other side that way, the way it's supposed to be. And then position the table top exactly where I want it and screw it down, and that'll pull these edges down, giving me a straight shot at putting these on. So I think when you get back, that's what you'll see. So far so good. Alright, so after a couple hours I got the one side end piece glued in, and I waited about 2.5 hours, came back and glued the other side in because I didn't want to have them bowing up on the ends because of all the pressure. So I also got the floor in, and I have the back side cabinet piece, the side, and this is going to be matching the rest of my shop, which is in grizzly green. I got it all over the place. So the sides are going to be green, grizzly green, and the legs and the top and all the exposed wood will be polyurethane, I think. Anyway, I'm going to go have lunch. Back later. Okay, well, it's Friday morning, and yesterday I got this grizzly green side up on the side of the table. I used a power planer and got the whole surface flat. Then went over it again with a belt sander, and then I'm filling some of the little voids with some wood putty, and I'll do finish sanding today, and we'll get the end sides up, and maybe we can start polyurethaning. I haven't figured out how I want to do the cabinet doors on this side yet, so this side's still wide open, but we'll get to that today, and we'll be done pretty soon. I got half the shipment of my CNC machine yesterday, so next week we'll be putting that together when I get the final shipment, and I'll be back. Well, this is the completed CNC table, partially completed. I'm going to be putting doors, cabinet doors, on the front where the vacuum is down there, but I don't know what I'm building inside of it yet until I get the CNC machine and see what kind of stuff I think I need to store. But anyway, basically it rolls well. It's very, very sturdy. The brakes on the wheels hold it completely still. The drawers, I missed a couple of video clips that didn't turn out on the finishing up of the drawers, but you get the idea. The drawers will be holding the computer and the accessories for the CNC table. But basically that's the end of this project. I think it turned out very well. I'm very happy with it, and fairly soon we'll be getting started on some more projects involving the CNC machine, the setting up and the testing and things like that. So come on back. Thank you all for your subscriptions and your wonderful comments. So this is James signing off for now. Come back soon, and take care. Bye.